Well, today I've got a little bit of woodworking I wanted to try and do, but the problem is my shaper, which I have not had any place to really properly store this. Unfortunately, it's been tarped really well with a strap, but unfortunately the condensation alone really got to it, and it's got quite a bit of corrosion. To make matters worse, I just plugged it in and it doesn't want to go. But I actually just tried turning this by hand, and I think what's happened is I think the moisture's actually gotten down into the bearing in there. So I got to do a little bit of work on this. I got to take this whole fence assembly off of here anyway, so that I can try and do my best on this, bringing this cast iron table back up to snuff. I think this is a good job for the angle grinder and one of those bristle discs on this flat surface. But if I get this out of the way, that'll help. The problem is this appears to be held on by these two long bolts right here, which, judging from the looks of things, are probably pretty corroded. So I'm going to go get some tools and some penetrating lubricant. Alright, so I'm going to start by putting on a little bit of this ZEP 45 NC penetrating lubricant. Let that soak. I'm grabbing this with vice grips. Actually, it's not bad at all. Heck, those might even come out without the lubricant, without the penetrating oil. Alright, so one of the things I can do is I can remove this belt. This is the belt, runs over from this very odd, very wide pulley, and the purpose of that pulley is so that as you raise and lower the spindle assembly for different heights on the cutter, this belt will just basically move up and down the pulley as necessary, and that way you don't have to have a situation where the whole motor bracket and everything has to move up and down. So that's how they get around that problem as far as the way this is made. Now I can feel this thing just moves a little bit and stops dead, which is interesting to me. What I'm going to do right now is if I loosen this little bolt right here, I should be able to take the tension off of the belt enough so that I can that must be metric. Anyways, I'm cheating. Use the giant adjustable wrench on this little tiny bolt. That would be too easy. I'm not going to be able to get enough clearance to get this. Gotta go get the right wrench. Alright, I cheated and used vice grips. That bolt was pretty loose, so just slide this over, pop this off, and I can see right away my spindle's going to be my problem, not the motor. I don't know whether or not I'm happy about that or not. I'm going to take the belt off and let's check that motor out. Sounds good. Let it spin down and then try the other direction, although I see no reason why it wouldn't be just fine. That snap you hear there, that's the centrifugal switch switching back to the start position. Alright, motor's not the problem. Okay, so now I'm going to take off this cutter that's been left on here. This cutter actually on this shaper when I bought it. I've never used this shaper. I bought it at a yard sale. Oh, reverse thread, I think. Yeah, it's reverse thread, but you know what? Try and help those rusty threads. Again, these aren't bad at all. That should be turning. The fact that it's stuck is actually helping me. So this larger nut here is standard thread, and then the locking nut on the top is reverse thread. That's interesting. Then this right here is a spacer that is supposed to just slide off, but of course that also appears to be rusted in place. At the very least temporarily stuck. Oh, I'm happy to see that that penetrant went right down in there. I don't think I can grab this collar with vice grips. I think I'm going to need a pipe wrench. I need a pipe wrench. Those are two spacers. One right after the other. Ah, now how do you grab the cutter without damaging it? This stuff is working really well. It's going right down in there instead of just sitting on the surface. More on those collars than on this piece. This piece is a little bit more stubborn. Okay, how about a block of wood to tap on this thing? The cutter spinning? Or is that shaft actually starting to move? Oh, the whole shaft is moving. If I can get the whole cutter to come up a little further, I can probably get something under there to pry it. Let's see. If I recall correctly, as I recall, this is the elevation knob, but that this is a locking knob, so that you have to loosen this before you can, yeah, there we go. Get that up like that. Oh, that's already freeing up. Alright, let me lower this back down. Let's see if I put this under here and I lower. I'll pop that off. Oh. Man, the cutter's on there. Let's lock this back down. Try to stay away from where the cutting edge is. Wow. I can see that's going to prove to be the most challenging part of this little project right now, is going to be to remove this. Oh, just broke free. Oh, okay, excellent. And there is another collar underneath here, but I can leave that on for the time being, I believe. I want to clean some of the debris out of there. So you can see right down in there is where I sprayed the penetrating lubricant, but there's a lot of gunk in there. I'm going to clean that out. Well, unfortunately, those bearings are cooked, and I cleaned off the top of this one only to see that it's a sealed unit. So that's a sealed bearing that somehow went south. But there's also probably one on the bottom, and I can't tell whether or not it's the bottom one or the top one that's actually a culprit, or both. If I turn this, I can see that this piece right here keys into this piece, so somehow this top spindle comes off of that bottom part. I notice on the bottom here there's a nut, spanner nut, and it's locked on with a locking washer. And then there's this bolt right here. I bet you if I stop this from turning on the top here and turn this on the bottom, I bet you I can take that off. Well, that's just a nut, but it's got a taper to it, as if when it tightens it pulls in something. Now if I push that on just partially, bang on the bottom of it. is it? Move up? I think it did. Yeah, that worked. All I did was I kept that nut on to protect the threads, tapped on it with a ball peen hammer, and was able to get this to pop up. Assuming maybe it's a tapered fit. Yeah, it is. There you go. It's supposed to be so you can change the spindle to another size spindle, I'm assuming. I wonder whether or not you can actually get a holder that would hold the router bits. Call it. Alright, now to get this out, I think I've got to remove that nut on the bottom here. So I need a, let's see if this screwdriver is small enough. Alright, need a smaller screwdriver. Alright, I just lowered that down and I put a wrench across here so that it's going to be wedged between those two tangs that stick up, so that now I can use this spanner wrench and get that spanner nut off, hopefully. You know, my little cheesy spanner here actually started to bend. That's how tight that nut is. There's only 3 nuts in the lock washers holding this whole bracket assembly in here. So, unscrew this. And let's see if I take this handle off. 10 millimeter. Oops, spacers. Oh, dirt. Ah, here's the third spacer. Alright, so here's that star washer. And it looks like I missed one of the tangs. It just accidentally get bent. I probably accidentally grabbed it with the spanner and re-bent it into position there. This looks like it's normal. Too big. Unfortunately, the only spanner I have close to fitting this is this one, which is, like I said, it's a little weak. Alright, so now I should be able to keep this wrench on here like this. It does look like regular thread, it's not left-hand thread. Need a punch. Snap ring. Definitely sounds like the top one. Snap ring pliers. Alright, before the wife came over to talk to me, I had just gotten these out and I was listening to them, and that's clearly my toasted one right there. That sucker. This one, I can't spin it fast, so I can't really hear it, but I think this one might actually be okay. But, you know, if I can get these bearings and they're not crazy money, which I don't think they're going to be, I'm of the mindset of just, you know, replacing them both. So let's see what we got here for numbers. It's an NTN bearing. Oh, it's got a nice number. Oh, yeah. I think I recognize this number, for crying out loud. 6005Z? Wow. You know, I'm almost thinking that's the bearings that I got for the SIP drill press gearbox. I gotta check that out. I don't remember what the numbers were on those bearings, but the I threw the boxes out, and the new ones are already installed in the... here's one of the old ones. It's clearly larger. But that's still 6005Z. I think that's a really common bearing number. So I should have no problem at all getting that. That's that one. Let's see if the one on the shaft is identical. See, this looks like it's just a shielded bearing, whereas this top one looks like it's a sealed bearing. So it is different. It's a little different in construction. And it might be, I think it's going to be the same size though. Yeah, this is a 6005 dash something else. And that something else number, that dash number, is probably what's going to differentiate whether or not this is a, you know what this is. So I think I want to take that off of there. And I'm thinking I need to know exactly what position this is in on this shaft. In other words, I think I want to take a measurement from, I want to measure that gap right in there, because when I put the new bearing on, it doesn't look like there's a shoulder to stop it from going down any further or up any further, and I don't want it in the wrong position. So I'll take that measurement. Alright, so I'm just going to take the shaft here, use my calipers, and go in there, and it's dead on. So that's going to be pretty easy. I'm betting it's 250 thousandths. No, it looks like it's 300 thousandths. Yep, that's 200 there. That's 250. And that's 350. I need about 350. So when I put this back together, I'm going to make sure when I push this bearing down that I leave, what did I say, 350? See? Joking around, I'm going to mess myself up. Not 350. 300 thousandths. 0.300. That's the spacing there. Alright? I'm going to write it down.